not sure, but I think this is the most I've been on the fence about doing a review. I'm gonna do it, no, I'm not gonna do it, no, I should do it, no, I don't want to do it, no, I should really do it though. You may be familiar with the title of the book that I am talking about today, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. It was published in 2014, made a big splash, won the Pulitzer Prize. It is a fictional story set during World War II about a blind girl in France and a boy in Germany, and at least one of those elements suggests that this story would be up my alley, so I've had it on my to-read list for a while. Finally, a couple weeks ago I read it. I thought it was a honking big book, but it turns out it's not a super long read, despite being over 500 pages long. Most of the chapters are short, and that keeps the story moving. Plus, I read it on the Kindle, which makes me read faster for some reason, and keeps me from skipping ahead and peeking at what happens next, which is something I have a problem with. I went into it knowing little about the plot, and I think that's the way to do it. So I'm not going to give a plot summary. I'm just going to repeat that it is a fictional story set in World War II that follows two main characters, a blind girl in France and a boy in Germany, and there's a lot about radios, and the sea, and shells, and Nazi Germany, and French resistance. The cover design, by the way, is lovely. That's one thing you miss out on if you read it on the Kindle. I liked this book quite often. I really liked it, and there were a couple of times that I loved it. I wasn't over the top ecstatic about it, though. It starts in 1944 and then goes back 10 years and chronicles the characters' very separate lives in brief alternating chapters. The chapters' shortness makes them move along, but also was sometimes a problem because just when you're really getting into it with a character, the chapter ends and you switch to the other character. And by the time you get back to whatever was going on in that other chapter, you've lost momentum, and you've possibly forgotten what was going on at the moment that you left off. And I found that that frequently kept me from getting as deeply entrenched in the narrative as I would have liked to be. The book is split into parts, 11 I think, or maybe 12, going back and forth in time. I recommend trying to get through a part in one sitting instead of breaking it up. It just makes it smoother. There are a few difficult or disturbing scenes, instances of violence and cruelty, and on one or two occasions I wondered if the level of detail was excessive. I do appreciate that Anthony Doerr was trying to be as realistic as possible, but I still wondered, was that really necessary? But don't discount it as a tale wallowing in misery. It does have its beautiful, positive moments and characters. At this point, to finish this review, there's something else I have to talk about, and I'm not sure if what I'm going to say constitutes as spoiler or not. I'm still staying away from details, but you might be able to infer something. So if you are planning to read the book and want to know as little about it as possible, as I would recommend, then you should stop watching the video now. If you have read the book, or if you just don't mind hearing possible spoilerish things, then okay. Let's move on. This book follows two main characters and builds up to the moment when their paths cross. That entire segment when that happens, I thought, was the best part of the book. I enjoyed the way it was executed, and since that was what I had been waiting for the whole time, I was pleased with what the long build-up led to. But a thing happens. And when that thing happened, I was so stunned that I had to put the book down and leave for a while. And when I came back, half an hour later, I reread the sentence and then kept going. And yep, that thing really happened. And I got very upset. There was a lot of violent crying, very ugly, and then I realized that the book just kept on going, and I don't know, that offended me somehow, that the book didn't have the decency to end shortly after that point. And then I got angry, and the dominant emotion I felt after the book was finally finished was anger. Anger at what happened, anger at the way it happened, anger at the author for writing it in. He got me emotionally invested in a character just for this to happen? What a jerk! To me and to the character. You can see why I struggled with doing a review. There were a lot of emotions at play, and so I just opted out. However, I've had a little time to mull things over. I'm still miffed about it, but I concede that Doerr was making a statement about war, about fate, and maybe to him it was poetically just and right that this thing happened, and that's just the way it had to be. What's helped me the most in thinking about it and how it affects the entire book and the structure of it all is altering my perspective a little. And here's what I came up with. There are people who pop into our lives, and in one invaluable instant, they help us, or teach us, or maybe just make us feel better when we're weak or afraid. I can think of people like that, people who I barely knew, or even complete strangers who reached out and were kind and selfless and did something for me, something that I've never forgotten. I think what this book does is show not just a person on one side of that situation, but both of them, examining the factors that led them to act as they did in that moment. It's like if I read a book about my life with such a moment as the climax, and it didn't just tell my history, but the other person's too. It leads up to the point of intersection, and afterward our stories go their separate ways, for better or for worse, and that's it. Except that I have this memory that pops up now and then, and the impression that they left on me. I hope that makes some kind of sense. I can't say if that's what Doerr was trying to communicate, but it's a thought that's helped me feel better about the book, and especially the way the book turns out. I would recommend All the Light We Cannot See, especially to people who like reading stories set during World War II. It's not my favorite of that genre, or subgenre, but it is a very good, well thought out book. Prepare for some suspense, and of course, some emotions. Thanks for watching. Bye!